Right, so welcome to a new guide on this channel about the Shaper box. So in this one, we will talk about how to use the volume shaper, and we are going to be talking about some use cases. Now, we are not going to cover how to create envelopes and how, the toolbar and all the things that we have available work, because I already covered this on a different video. So if you check the cards at the top or the description, links at the description, you will find a bunch of links for the different, Cableguys Shaper box videos I've recorded. So if you think about it, volume shaper, we pretty much shape the dynamics of whatever goes in. Now, this is why on pretty much all the modules, you get an envelope follower right here. This is going to follow whatever signal you feed, and it's going to create an envelope and do whatever it is that you need to do. But on the volume shaper, we don't. It is because this is what we do by default when we draw an envelope. We are just creating our own. Now, since the volume shaper is the most basic of them all, of all the shapers, I really don't need to explain anything that we have going right here. Maybe on different modules, I will need to do some more explaining, but this one is pretty simple. We get a volume, we get the multiband we already discussed on the other video, and the blend control. Now, still, the volume shaper is the most important tools of all of the tools you have right here. So, okay, so let me just give you some examples of why you would use or you need to use the volume shaper. So the first most obvious example is to duck or sidechain when the signal, says so. We use sidechain or we duck it to, let something pass. Now, let me give you an example. Right here, I have a bass and I have a kick. And the kick is just buried behind the bass. So this shaper box is standing on the bass, and we want to do some side chaining. You can go right here, and it's just going to give you a side chaining by default. So I'm going to turn it on, and we can hear the kick. You have different options. Side chain, more aggressive, from more mild to more aggressive side chaining. All right. So I know that you know all this, that this is pretty simple, is the most common example, and I'm pretty sure that most of people use the volume shaper just to duck. Now, the first thing to know about this is that when you duck like this, we are listening to, right here, to the beat, and it's a dumb sidechain. We are not listening to the kick, right? It's just going tempo. So this might bring a problem because sometimes the kick is going to play, and sometimes maybe if you have some variation, it's gonna duck regardless of the kick. So we can still use it like this if your pattern of the kick is very predictable, right? So what you can do, you can create a trigger. Now this trigger is just a MIDI clip, just playing a MIDI note whenever the kick hits. So what we can do, we can just create a clip and listen to the sidechain and listen to that MIDI trigger. Now on different DAWs, you have different options. On Bitwig, you can just throw a node receiver and just choose from where your incoming signal, your incoming MIDI is going to be. In this case, it's going to be it's going to be that trigger. So on the shaper box, instead of just doing the sync, which is the dumb sidechain, what we can do, we can just change it to MIDI. Now I'm going to be playing again, and now this is grooving by receiving this instruction, which is going to be the kick, the trigger, right? So now we are just sidechaining the proper way. If the kick stops and we prepare the MIDI, the trigger, to stop as well, it will not do the ducking. Right, so this is kind of again, the most common use case that you might find on, any, the volume shaper box. And remember also that you have a blend knob. So if it's too aggressive, you just can, manage your mix. Again, this is the most common example. Let's use it for something else. Now, the next most common example is to use it as a trimmer or, just to trim. And you do have an option right here to trim, it's like a fast preset. So again, let me just give you an example. I have this kick. The kick is super long, just super long. It's taking a lot of space. So if I go to the volume shaper, we can go and do trim, but for now, I'm just going to do it like this. We notice that the kick again is too long. I'm going to maybe change to magnitude. So what we can do, we just can maybe sync to whatever it is that we are doing. And I'm going to be doing like this and going to 1/4. And it's going to be a single kick, right? Because the kick is very predictable. So what we can do, we can just go all the way down, just like this. Just make it super aggressive, just like that. And I'm going to be just trimming the kick. Instead of making it super long, we're going to make it much shorter. Now this is with and without. So you can adjust your envelopes as much as you like, maybe a little bit more punch and less tail, and now it's just gonna be a little bit better. Super long, tight. So you can use it for ducking, or you can use it to control, the tail and a little bit of the dynamics of whatever it is that you're trying to control. Now, the thing is that, again, this pattern is just a kick and is a predictable pattern. But if you have something, less predictable, it's going to be a problem because you're doing sync. It's going to do every 1/4. What happens if the kick changes patterns or we change the rhythm a little bit? It's not gonna trim it because, it's not so predictable anymore. So instead of using it like this, what we could do, we could use the audio tool. So right here we are using sync. I'm going to be going to audio that we have right here. So now instead of listening to, the sync, it's going to listen to the actual kick. So whenever the kick hits, then and only then it's going to do it. If I go over the top, it will not re-trigger the LFO. So it depends on your kick. You're going to need to adjust all your params right here. But now I'm sure that it's going to be triggering when the kick plays and not, when we are in sync, which is a dumb trim. Right. Okay, so I have some tops right here. And it's just like pretty simple. And it's the same pattern over and over again. So I know that this is going to work. I'm going to be changing right here to this. So we just get, the snare and we get the hats. So what I want to do, I'm going to go down in volume. So we have room. And then I'm going to be trimming up because since I'm going down in volume, we just need to match it. So what I want to do, maybe, and you can choose right here, it's completely up to you. I want to go up in the peak. I want to accentuate that peak. But at the same time, I want to go down on this one and bring the body of the snare down. This is what I want to do. So if you think about this and then just go back as soon as the snare, ends and go back when the next hat plays. So we are just, reducing the body. So we are using it to accentuate the peak. So we are using as a transient designer, go up on the peak, and we are reducing the release, the length, making it shorter. If I go the other way, we make it really long. Then maybe on the hats, I want to expand them. So it goes down and then goes up. And maybe I don't want to do all. I want to do just this one. So I can just, add it just like that. And now we are creating a little bit of expansion but motion at the same time. Maybe on this one's, what I want to do, I want to go down and create something more rhythmical. This one is going to be up. Like this, and this one I'm going to be adding a little bit of Philly right there, and a little bit of that, and this one is going to go down just a little bit. I'm going to do shift and click to get the medium, and now what we are doing, we are just accentuating the punch, going down, making the snare shorter. We are altering the dynamics, maybe doing a little bit of expansion, but at the same time we are creating motion. If I turn it off, it's just completely different. I wouldn't say it's better. I'm just giving you an example. Now, if I play it with the snare and everything we've been doing, it's gonna sound a little bit like that. Again, right here we can just go to the bass and sidechain it a little bit more. And if I go to this one and turn it off, just much more constant, which is fine. Then later we can just grab all of this and just compress it a little bit, just make it glue a little bit better. But yeah, we can use it just like this. Use it as a, compressor or as a transient designer. Just to keep more attack, bring less sustain, and then add a little bit of motion. Right? That's the whole point. Now, you still need to use compressors and all of that. You still need to use it. This is a more creative way of just doing part of that job. Okay, so I have a pad right here, and it's the easiest pad you could think of. It's a pretty simple pad. I'm using a GX80 from Cherry Audio. Now, never forget that you have a multi-band. Never forget. So, if I play the kick, we know that we need to do a little bit of sidechaining right here, just a little bit. If I go to the sidechain and I choose to do the usual sidechain on this one, it's gonna be a little bit too aggressive. And besides, we are not doing it on the right spot, so we need to do it on here, something like that. Now this is fine, but we are just compressing or actually ducking the whole signal. Why not using the multiband? We know that the problem is going to be the lower frequencies, not so much of the high frequencies. It's okay, so you know what? I'm going to be deleting this one, just going to go right there to kind of kaboom, delete everything, and I'm just going to be splitting the bands. I'm going to be standing right here and just target, the problematic area. And right here, then we do the duck. But the higher frequencies stay untouched. Now we are still ducking, but we are kind of ducking on a much smarter way. Now this is completely up to you. Maybe you want to duck the higher frequencies and you want that vibe, that pumping. But you can still do it, There we go, we get the pumping. Now still, what we can do, we can add different things. Since right here, we maybe want a little bit of pumping, we can do the same pumping, but maybe we want less, so we're gonna do less mix, so you can do that. Now again, you're just sidechaining on a more, just smarter, more focused way. Now the other thing that you can do if you wanted to, maybe you want to add a little bit of motion along with your sidechaining, your ducking. So I can maybe go to the mid, and instead of doing a sidechain, I can just maybe do something more rhythmical, right? Why not? Let me just gonna do something like that, and I'm gonna add a little bit of just valley. And we are adding motion with the volume shaper. Maybe I want to do something like that. And the sound changes completely. We go up in volume. From nothing, very just static, to something that has a lot of motion. Right. And it's just a volume shaper. It's a very simple tool, and we are just using it on a more creative way, and that is the whole purpose of, the shaper box. Alright, so I have a clap right here. I'm gonna play it. And it's going to be a pretty long clap, which is fine. But it's just maybe a little bit too static. We have a long reverb. I'm using the Galactic reverb from Cherry Audio. And maybe I just want to do a little bit of movement, especially to the tail. So I'm going to go to the volume and we're going to start doing our job. Now what we want to do, we want to add a little bit of motion. Now, I want for the motion to start when we hear the clap, when we, listen to that clap. So maybe it's a better idea to use audio, because if I play it from here, it will not be doing any motion. It will just trigger whenever we hear the clap. Now we need to decide the length. Maybe 1 bar is not enough because it's a very long clap. I'm going to be using 2 bars and start over. Go there. I think, that could be enough. Just gonna make it, a little bit longer. So we could do it maybe 4 bars if you wanted to. It's gonna be a very long one. And okay, so now what we can do, we can use this just to add a little bit of motion after the snare hit. And I'm gonna be creating something because this is gonna take a little while. Right, so this is my shape. I'm letting the clap be heard. And then what I want to do, I want to add movement, but I want to do it on a more kind of a rhythmical, I wouldn't say rhythmical, but just add a little bit of pattern, some pattern of going up and going down, and just adding motion. The volume shaper is just a great thing to add motion. If I, again, just play it back, off, super linear, which is fine, depends on the context. But now, if I stop it and play it again, and just turn it on, of course, I'm going to be playing it back. Gonna play it again. So this is just a little bit more interesting. So if I play the part back without, the motion, it's fine. Super static, but maybe you want a little bit motion. We're gonna do the same, but I'm gonna be turning this on. I'm gonna be playing it. Just a different thing, right? It's just a completely different thing. It changes the whole vibe of the clap and, the track itself on that section, Let's do it again, but without the motion. Now with the motion on. Now this is a taste thing. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But it's you just using again the volume shaper. You just can add this movement that maybe you're just looking for. Okay, so I have some vocals right here. I'm gonna be playing this. Right, it's just some vocals with a very long, lush reverb. I'm gonna play it again. So that's fine, but again, we want to just create a little bit of movement. Gonna let the first part of the vocal pass, and then we are just gonna add a rhythmic pattern. Now, with the volume shaper and all the other shapers, you have the MIDI switch that you can do right here. So first, I'm gonna let the vocals pass. So I'm gonna be using this one. So C# is going to be the whole vocal letting it pass, right? But then maybe I just, want to do a different thing. I'm gonna be maybe going to rhythm, and I'm going to just be using the patterns that we have right here. I'm just going to be using this one. And this one is going to be my second. I'm going to go to this one, but this one, just delete it. But now I'm going to be duplicating this. Just going to maybe do it like this. I'm going to do it like that. And I'm going to create one more. And this one is just going to be more. And this one is going to be my fourth. So we have different rhythms, right? And so when we select it, is going to be changing. So I'm going to be doing it manually, and then we are going to outsource this. Right, so I'm going to be playing it in 3, 2, 1, and as we go, I'm going to be changing to different patterns. I'm going to be doing play in 3, 2, 1. Right, so we can just create rhythms like this, and right now I'm just using a template, so we can do a little bit better. But we can use this and outsource it with a MIDI clip. Right, so what I did, I added a MIDI clip. Now all of this is just gonna provide the instructions of where we need to go, to which envelope we need to go, as the vocal or the tail of the vocal goes. So I'm going to be going here to the vocal, and I've added a note receiver. So this is getting the MIDI from this MIDI clip, and this is something that you can do on Bitwig on your DAW. You need to find out how you can just get MIDI information to an audio track. That's depends on your DAW. And now the Shaper Vox is going to be listening to all of this. So whenever we play, I'm going to be playing it back. First, we're going to let the vocal pass, and then we are going to be just changing it to different rhythms. And I don't know how it's going to sound. I'm going to be playing it right now in 3, 2, 1. So that's the concept, that's the main idea, to create different rhythms. And you are going to be triggering all of this with, controlling all of this with the MIDI. Maybe you just can find something a little bit more, just a little bit better that fits maybe a little bit better with this part, with the rhythm section. Just completely up to you. But you can do something like this. It's just very creative. It's just a way of creating rhythmic patterns by, toggling different envelopes. And now this is just a dumb example, but for example, let's say we use it on the synths, right? We just use it on a chord. And if we do the same, we are just going to be getting a different rhythm with the same chord, right? It's like we are just playing it differently. This is why I'm telling you the volume shaper is the most powerful tool of all the shaper box 3 or 4 or 2, whatever you have, is the most powerful tool. All the other ones are just great, but are for different purposes. The volume is the one that you will be using most of the times because it's so useful, not just for sidechaining and trimming, but, just to add a little bit of motion and life to whatever it is that you're trying to process. So these are a few examples on how to use the different uses that we get with the volume shaper. It's not just for sidechaining and trimming. We can do a million things. Now, again, it's just a few examples. Maybe you do some other things with the volume shaper. If you do and you have something interesting to share, go to the comment section and just, help people out. Just write something out. Just let us know how you use it. So maybe we could just, take your idea and use it in our productions. All right, so that's it. That's it for this one. Remember to like and subscribe if you find this useful. And I guess on the next one, I'm going to be covering the filter. And then I guess I'm going to go to maybe the drive or the time. All right, so see you on the next one.